Welcome to the Channel Surfers, the podcast that helps channel leaders navigate the waves of partnerships, revenue growth, and ecosystem success. My name is John McCabe. I am the co-host of Channel Surfers, and I'm joined as always by my good friend and fellow co-host, Jeff Lennon. How you doing, Jeff?
John, I'm doing great, man. Doing great. Beautiful weather. Got to get out and swing the sticks, But
Oh yeah.
but we've got a very important podcast today. We got a really great guest.
Yeah.
Love the work that he's doing. So hope want to really kind of dig in and learn a little bit more about what Craig is doing here today.
I'd just like to make one comment.
Uh-oh.
After 53 years of frustration, actually more like 40 for me, my beloved New York Knicks won the finals over the weekend, so I'm very happy. So I just wanted to get that out there.
I won the under.
You won the bet. No, I think you're right. Today's guest, good friend of the show, good friend of our of Jeff and John's. Today our guest is a guy who spent many years walking into channel organizations, looking at partner programs that everyone swears are working, and we know that conversation, right, Jeff? And politely informing them that they aren't working, right? He's a two-time author, founder of a great company called Channel Force. And, he's done sales transformation, channel strategy, and possibly the only person brave enough to tell a room full of channel leaders that adding more partners probably won't solve the problems. We know that story, but please help us welcome good friend Craig Booth. How you doing, Craig?
I don't even know where to start with that introduction. I didn't hire you guys as my marketing team. So, but first, listen, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I almost feel like, hey, if you make the Channel Surfers podcast, like you're kind of on the map now. So I feel like, the launch of my career is starting right here with the Channel Surfers. But in all honesty, I really do respect both of you guys, both really great minds. I love your podcast. I love what you guys are doing. But more importantly, you guys are two of the best people I know in the partnering and consulting world. Like genuine people, really good at what you guys do.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
A lot of conversations in the background. Every once in a while, I come like this is no ego thing, but I speak to a lot of people and I hear kind of the same things over and over. When I speak to you guys, I often learn things that I didn't think of before. And so a lot of respect for both of you guys. Super excited to be on the podcast and just thank you for the opportunity to be here.
We appreciate that. And the whole idea behind the podcast is to help people learn. So I guess we're doing our job, Jeff.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Like George Costanza says, we're going to end the show now because we're ending on a high note. So that was great. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you guys. I appreciate it. So, no, all good.
All right. So
you go, man.
Yeah, Craig, just give our audience a little background about who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, so my name is Craig Booth, obviously. I've spent 30 to 40 years, I don't want to give away too much of my age, in technology sales. Probably half of that time was in direct sales, so I don't come at this from a partner sales angle. I accidentally made my way into partner sales. I was actually working at Juniper Networks, and I was running the Verizon account, a portion of that, and part of the role was to certify product for managed service offerings and help Verizon sell that downstream. And that was sort of my introduction into the partnering world. Nobody ever told me I was in channel. I thought I was a carrier salesperson that was supporting a bigger mission. But that was sort of my foray in. And from there, I went, spent a number of years in partner leadership at a number of companies and had some pretty good success along the way. Decided to write a couple of books as I've gone along. So I felt like, hey, I've got something that's unique, that's different in the way, at least the thought process and the methodology. So I started documenting elements of that I found would be kind of helpful to the partnering community, and launched out on my own on 2021.
Wow.
A really successful year, a couple of years over at Juniper. And here I am. Now I'm building a platform to kind of go along with the methodology. I've got a bunch of training, but, looking forward to partnering with guys like you. So,
I was in telecom early on in my career. I was with MCI WorldCom and a couple other companies. And I remember Juniper was one of our good partners. We'd always bring them into, large network deals, and that brought back a lot of memories here in your background there.
No, it was great. I think I spent 7, 8 years over at Juniper. It was
Wow.
a good company to work for.
Yeah.
Great product set. Obviously, we were always battling uphill against Cisco and others, but it was one of the companies I really, really appreciated working for.
Nice.
That's what makes the whole fight worth it, to be honest with you, right? If you're just out there leading the pack, I mean, come on, right? I mean, you want to be fighting that uphill battle. So, well, it's interesting because, like John just said, looking at some of the background, you worked at Juniper, you worked at Cloud Harmonics, and this is where, because I want to transition into what you're actually doing, but what would be some lessons that you have learned from the direct sales side that channel leaders often miss, right? Because and I'll just preface this by, I personally believe like some of the best channel managers I've ever met were salespeople. They started off as sales, and a lot of times when you probably went through this, it's like, oh, you're going to a part of the business where you don't sell anymore. It's a different sell. You got to build the business. But what would you say are some lessons from the direct sales side that you haven't seen channel leaders actually do or they actually miss?
Yeah, so there's a couple. So first and foremost, it's about producing revenue, and I think a lot of times we tend to forget that. It almost goes back to your comment just a minute ago. We're in sales. You're a channel leader. It doesn't mean you're not in sales. All it means is you're managing a different set of sellers, and you're still a sales manager, right? So that's the first thing I would say. The second thing is that I think we kind of miss a lot, and it has to do with the model that we put in place, but it's how do we engineer revenue? As a salesperson, whenever you're giving your quota, you always backwards engineer your quota. You're always sitting back saying, how many deals do I have to close? And where am I going to get those deals from? And what accounts and what do I have in queue right now? So you're figuring out the gap from what you've got pipeline to what you have to go out and produce. And then you're kind of building your plans to figure out how to make that number, if not take it further. And I feel like that is kind of a missing element in the typical partnering world. Not that we don't do plans, because we do a lot of business plans, but we don't necessarily make them metrics driven or metrics based. We kind of make them more soft science, like really good intentions. Here's my intention of what we need to do and what I want to do. And a lot of that is because we feel like we don't have control over our partners downstream. We just have influence, which I think is an accurate statement. But I think we can create a deeper level of influence with those partners if we structure things right and we sell, the right messaging. So that's what I would kind of say are the lessons that I take over into the partnering world. And I think those are important lessons just to keep in, just to frame things out.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a good answer. I mean, and not to kind of hog the show here. So kind of taking that as your foundation, when did you realize the channel needed to have a more structured revenue operating model? Because I'm using your own words, right? We are driving revenue, but when did you realize that there needed to be a shift and have this more structured revenue model, the structured approach, so to speak?
Yeah, this is an honest answer that might be a little shocking, but I was running a 15-state area for Avaya, and I had the worst QBR of my life with the direct sales team. Like, it was a disaster. And it was a disaster because I was using channel metrics trying to solve a sales problem. And the salespeople didn't care about my metrics. They cared about their metrics. And I couldn't speak their language. And it really ended up being quite a bad, honestly, probably the worst moment of my career. Well, what ended up happening through that is it started the process of saying, you know what, if I'm having trouble articulating the value of my partner ecosystem and my role in this, even though we're making more money from the channel than they had before, even though my processes were working, I was not messaging this in a way that made sense to the direct sales team that we were beholden to. And that created tension and stress. So to sort of answer your question, that was the kind of the moment that I said, you know what, I've got to figure out how to translate the value of what we do into something that our sales organizations can see as tangible value, and that I can message it the right way. So that was kind of the moment that I kind of said, hey, you know what, I'm in a different world and I have to look at it differently because, and I'm not trying to toot my own horn by any means, but when I was over at Juniper, we were a rocket ship. We went from 5 million to 111 million in 5 years, my team and I.
Very well-regarded company. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Like everything we did just turned into gold. So when I went somewhere else, I felt like, it's going to be the same thing. I have no channel background at all. I have a sales background, and I build a methodology that works. It's got to be the same everywhere else. And I'm learning it's not that way.
Well, you at Juniper, you had a very, a textbook alliance, technological alliance relationship where your product helped their product.
Yes.
And when they had a need, they called you and brought you in, and you guys sold together, which is the way it should work. A lot of times, sometimes alliances just don't work well together, right? And you kind of had that fit. So I think that's why, like, what you were going through, and back then, like, people were growing networks exponentially, right? And there was a need for it. And I think now with AWS involved, maybe there's less network involvement, but I don't know. But that to me was textbook technology alliance relationships.
Yeah, I would totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree.
So Craig, you talk a lot about outdated channel assumptions, and I'm going to use air quotes, myths, channel myths. Can you talk about the channel myths that continue to hurt organizations, and what's the biggest myth vendors really kind of still believe today?
Yeah, by the way, that's a phenomenal question, and it's a great setup in many ways. So the first and foremost for me personally, I never understood opportunistic partnering. Like, why is it that we believe that our job is to enable a product and walk away and then hope that something happens? And the entire partnering model that we operate from was built in the 80s.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And built around computer land, and it was all about teaching, sellers at computer land to either position an XT or an Apple product. And that was the level of enablement, right? And so we have, it was all about discount structures and sort of keeping fair balance in a partner community. But it really was, and it was about teaching people the basics, but it wasn't really about how we have to operate today as far as execution and engagement. So the first myth that frustrates me, and probably a lot of people out here, is that our job is just to enable the product, enable people to compliance to our partner program, when the real job is about creating active sellers downstream at those partners. So how many active sellers can I produce, and how do I make sure that they are successful? Like, it's not about me as the vendor, and it's not about my product. It's how do I make if you're the partner seller, how do I make you successful by selling my product? How do I make it easy and profitable for you to go out and sell? So that takes a level of enablement that is about strategy, not product. How do I enable Jeff to execute a strategy, not just know about my product?
That is something we talk so much about on this show, and not just, it's important a partner knows how to sell your product, but I don't ever want some partner going in and trying to sell my product on their own. We need to be involved. We need to help them. We know things about the product. We know questions that will be asked. We know things that they just don't know because they're selling thousands of products, not just my product, right? So that really rings true. Just, the enablement isn't just like, here's our product, learn it, go sell it. You got to be involved with it.
100%. And you really think about, again, like another myth that'll tie right into this, which is we should do all this product training and certification online, where we're delivering 2 hours worth of training. Somebody takes a test, they walk away. 2 weeks from now, they have no idea what they trained on. They forgot all of it. They haven't applied any of it, and we think they're certified on our product. And that's we should be doing just-in-time learning. Like, teach the person what he needs to know at the moment in time that he needs to actually apply it, right? And so these are some of the myths and some of the things that I look at, and I just scratch my head, like, why are we doing it this way? It makes no sense. And we don't get the reward out of it. So,
well, it's interesting. I'm hearing this a lot, right? Just in different people talking about the channel, right? It's about the activation. It's about having active partners that are actively engaged, right? You made the comment at the beginning. We kind of joked about it, right? I have an old saying, and more isn't better; it's just more. But to your point, finding those partners, the ones that are engaged, the ones that are active, right? The just-in-time training kind of thing. Repetition is the mother of skill. So you've got to find a way to get these partners that get engaged. And once they get engaged, they end up refining their skills and becoming one of your top tiers. That being said, I look at the partner ecosystem, and I always used to fall back on the 80-20 rule. And I'm thinking it's probably more like 10-90 now. I don't know. I mean, I get the 80-20, but I'm kind of feeling it's more like 10-90. That's just from my observations. I'm curious where you see it, and what are the percentage of partners in the ecosystem that are actually having that impact? Is it the 80-20, or do you think it's less?
Well, it's definitely less, but I'd like to kind of reframe the conversation, right? This is part of the challenge for me is we look at the production unit of all the partnering world and the partner community as the partner. And that's why we're doing this like 80-20 or 80 or 90-10 or whatever it is. But the real production unit shouldn't be the partner. Partner is a roll-up of the sellers and the engineers below. And when we start, like when I talk about like a partner ecosystem, your partner ecosystem isn't I have 200 partners. Your partner ecosystem is I have 2,000 sellers. Okay. And what we want to do, and the way I want people sort of reframing things is around partner efficiency. How many of those sellers can I actually turn up and have those sellers executing either my strategy or a joint sales strategy? And that becomes the measurement of the success of your partner program. It's scaling sellers and scaling engagement consistently over and over and over. So it doesn't matter whether I have 200 partners or 1,000 partners, because to your point, 10% or less are actually doing anything, right?
Right.
What we've got to do, and this is sort of the reframing of the partner model. This is what I mean by like a modern partner model. What if we, took that less than 5% of partner sellers that do anything proactively in your entire ecosystem? What if we can make that 15% or 20% that are actively engaging in a set of targeted account, creating a coverage model for your direct sales team in their accounts? You would double and triple your partner revenue, because we're measuring at the impact with the economic buyer. We're creating the engagement at the economic buyer level rather than focusing on turning up and measuring partners that the message never gets deep enough or close enough to the customer to actually produce the value that we're looking for. So kind of going back to your question, Jeff, for me, it's about reframing that conversation.
I like that.
Active sellers around engagement. That's what's going to really move the needle. And by the way, it's what's going to put money in your channel leader's pocket and in your partner account manager's pocket. That's what's going to move the needle.
I think reframing is a favorite buzzword of Jeff's. Reframe things.
Constantly reframing everything, man. Houses, conversations, you name it.
Photos.
Yeah. Well, I need to reframe and get a better shirt. That's all I can say. We all look great.
So I have a question, and you talk a lot about the myths, and we all probably agree more partners isn't always better, right? But what if a vendor came to you and said, Craig, I've got this dilemma. I've got 500 partners. We're really loaded with partners, but we have stagnant revenue. What would the first thing you would do to investigate that?
Yes. So first, you got to go back and validate those partners. So, typically I'm working on something called a partner impact score. I want to know how many of those partners are partner impact partners, how many of those are fulfillment partners. So I think you've got to kind of reassess your partner. You might have 500 great partners, right? But you might only have 30 or 40, right? So the first thing I think you do is you assess those partners. And then the next assessment is really going deeper into those partners to figure out how many impact sellers do I have within those partners. And how many can I actually produce within those partners? So I think there's assessment that I think that any good channel leader should be doing, and kind of walking through. And also, think about it, right? If you get rid of all the dead wood in your partner community, that's fewer licenses, fewer resources that you need. Like, you're going to start to reduce the cost of your partner program. And if you're, again, focused on reducing active sellers, you're going to get better push to the market, which is going to equate to, better revenue performance as a whole with fewer partners. So I think there's a balance that you have to find between both of those. And sometimes they're not easy conversations, but there's some really creative ways you can do that. You can start looking at partners that have just sold one or two things and they've got license renewals, and you can say, I'm going to pay you less in the future on these renewals because you're not producing on the front end, right? So there's things you can do that will start naturally cycling out those partners. So,
okay,
that's good. That would be.
No, I like that. So, I was looking up before we had jumped. We've spoken a few times now, but I just wanted to refer back to something you recently wrote about, and hopefully I get this correct, right? The partner revenue operating system and the rise of the partner revenue architect. Talk about, if you can, just kind of frame that out. Let's reframe that. But seriously, frame that out a little bit to explain, because I found it really interesting. And we all talk about CROs, but I found having a partner revenue architect, if the CRO is not in line with that, like where could that impact, and what does that role actually look like?
Yeah, by the way, that's a great question again. So partner revenue architect for me is the next evolution of the partner account manager, the channel account management role. So when we think about what we've typically done in the past, the channel manager has been a relationship manager. They've been, an enabler. They've been a traffic cop. They've done a lot of different roles that are primarily, I would say, kind of soft science roles, and not, I wouldn't say hard science by any means. Now we're in the age of AI, and we're in the age of data, and the role needs to turn into more of a data role than a relationship role. So the idea of the partner revenue architect is that we're using AI, we're using data, and we're using tools to uncover opportunities that we can position with the partners. We're using data to help our partners sell better. We're using AI to help our partners sell better. And we're capturing execution data from partner sellers so that we can take that through our AI process and optimize the outcomes. Mm-hmm. So that's the role of the partner revenue architect. It's to kind of elevate above the traditional relationship role, which by the way, those are still things we need. We need trust, and we need to build all of that. But we want to really spin the focus to be less about us as the vendor and more about how we help our partners make better revenue more efficiently. And we're using our data and our resources to go and do that. And that's what I look at from the partner revenue.
You're actually becoming that resource. You're an external resource. You're becoming not just somebody who's managing. You're becoming the resource. You're becoming an extension of their team, so to speak, to help them drive and see things and get a better purview on what's happening.
And we're using our resources internal to the company to go and help them do that, right?
Yeah.
And that's how you become more integrated, more trusted. That's how you elevate your relevance within the partner community. You're helping them sell, right? You're thinking about them, putting things out there. So I'll give you a perfect example, because you asked about the PRO, the partner revenue operating system. So that's one of the things we're doing at Channel Force. You guys are also a big part of helping me with this. So I want to thank you guys for your thought leadership. But the concept of what the three of us are actually doing, along with a couple of others, is we're building middleware that sits between the CRM and the PRM. The CRM is your sales, relationship and resource management platform that has a good history of what's happening from a sales perspective, great for forecasting. The PRM manages the compliance to your partner program, your deal registration process, your education process, all that great stuff. What's missing is the execution layer that sits in the middle. How do we go and train people to execute effectively, and how to execute a strategy so that we can be forward thinking, where we are planning our revenue, we're building a production process, we're capturing the performance intelligence of what our partner sellers are doing, and we're running it through AI to optimize. That's what the partner operating system is meant to do. and we're building something new and different. And it's all based on active sellers, and it's based on, on data. So this is all about how do I take that less than 5% of these partner sellers that are doing anything and make this 15 to 20. Like that's what the role of this platform is to do.
Yeah, it's a very intuitive system. Jeff and I are helping you, with the build out or just the advice on the build out. But what we've seen so far, we've been very impressed with, and kind of help the audience understand, how did you get into doing that? And I see a lot of different technologies out there that are trying to help the channel. Yours is very unique, but how did you get into Channel Force and MPO3 OS?
Yes, and I think that's a great question. So the first and foremost, it comes back to my days over at Juniper working the Verizon account. I didn't have partners. I had one partner, Verizon. So my measurement had to be different than everybody else. I couldn't run around and measure partnerships. I had to measure active sellers. So that became the genesis of the whole model that we're building. So I just naturally have always measured the progression of how many active sellers that we're out producing and their engagements, those type of things. That led to overlaying like a sales process over the top of this. So what I really want to measure, and what our platform that we're collectively building is doing, is measuring the number of active sellers we have, the number of account engagements they're producing, the engagement rates, the conversion rates, the average deal size, the close rates in the funnel. That gives us a complete sales progression with trending analysis behind all of that and AI recommendations that come in behind that. So how I kind of came up with all this and is just literally sitting down and thinking about the problems that we have with the partnering world, with attribution, revenue production, metrics, going back to how do I speak metrics, all of that. And I just started mapping this out on paper and saying, if I had a clean slate, I knew nothing about partnering, how would I attack this problem? And I just sat down and mapped it out, and then started building the production process, the planning process. Essentially what I tried to do, and what I hope we're going to create, is a production process. So you think about any factory, you plan the inputs to go build the car. How much steel do I need to go build this car? Right? We put that in. We have a production process that steel goes through. We have a process where we're having system controls, where we're looking at what's actually going on in the production process, so we maintain the outputs. Well, I think we can build that same thing here in the partnering world, where our inputs are the revenue plan, the production unit becomes the active sellers, and the target account engagements, sales playbooks become the way we're processing. All the performance intelligence becomes the system controls, and AI optimizes it so we get to the right output. So I think we can build that.
So do you feel, we've had, I don't know how many shows we've talked about AI, and, people are always worried like AI is going to replace them. But do you feel like the future channel manager is more operational, analytical than relationship driven? I think it's more relationship driven, and always will be, but I'm curious what you think about that.
I think it's both. Mm-hmm. I totally agree with you, John. We're not going to get rid of relationships. People are going to buy from people no matter what.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what AI is saying or whatever else, because we're natural. We like people. We enjoy the relationships and the bonds that we build. I don't think any of that's going to go away. And I think it's foundational to everything that we're doing. But I think there's a layer above that, which is in order for us to build the right level of execution that is going to, foundationally support the trust and foundationally support everything else. I think there's a lot of metrics and data and process that we need to put in place to sort of balance that out. So I think it's both. I don't think we're going to be successful just on relationships moving forward, but I don't think you can be successful on metrics and a production process without trust and relationships. So I think you got to go hand in hand.
Yeah. Well, as John said, I mean, it's AI has permeated everything, right? And it's just my belief, it's our belief, I should say, right? Our belief is, look, AI is going to help with the seller engagement. It's going to help with routing. It's going to help with reporting, attribution, your follow-up, scheduling, all those great things. But I just think what's really clear, and this is where I think your whole Channel Force, was it MP3 OS or MP? Is that right?
Yeah, MP3 OS.
I just want to make sure I get it right. It's a cool acronym. You all have to figure out. It's in the movie, the Star Wars movie with Grego. And but anyway, all kidding aside, what AI doesn't fix, all kidding aside, right? It doesn't fix an unclear strategy, weak processes, bad data. It's not going to fix that. So where I'm seeing, potential challenges is people think that, they're going to sprinkle AI and it's going to fix something. Explain where you're seeing kind of the, and I apologize, I'm like kind of formulating this as I'm thinking, but, where are you seeing the role of Channel Force's, MP3 platform in creating, better visibility, better execution, repeatability, and structure, right? I mean, because that was my initial takeaway when we first talked. Gosh, a couple of weeks ago, maybe a month ago. That was kind of my takeaway. I was like, wow. I mean, I see you have a structure. You're helping to drive, the better visibility of information. And then for me, it's about repeatability, right? Because if you can get those things, keep it simple, keep it easy, make it repeatable. That's where success is. So talk, just kind of explain without getting too detailed, like what is the role of this platform and where do you actually seeing it help the performance of, where AI is leaning in, because you're leveraging a lot of AI, but where's that going to help the partner and the sales performance process today?
Yeah, for me, there's kind of two questions in there, so I'll answer both. I'll start with kind of, AI and my thoughts on AI. So I love AI. I always use the analogy of AI as like a brand new kitchen where we can cook food we've never cooked before. We can cook it faster. Like there's so many great things we can do with all these new appliances. But if I don't have a recipe that's really solid, and if I have bad ingredients, I'm just cooking really bad food fast. And I think that's what we're typically doing in the channel right now. So we're kind of, everybody's got AI, everybody's doing something. And I had this conversation yesterday too with another person. I watched another podcast the other day that introduced 3 different products. All the products they introduced were amazing. The problem is they were point products solving a point problem. And when you start to look at the tech stack that we're going to have to go out and deliver for the partnering community, it's going to be 12 different pieces of technology, 12 subscriptions, 12 trainings, 12, like you go through the whole list of things, we're not going to get there, right? So the backdrop for all this is you've got to have a methodology, and AI has to fit into your methodology.
Right.
And it has to connect. You can't have a bunch of different point products that you're trying to, weave together everywhere unless you create the connections from a methodology and a process and a system standpoint. So the partner account manager, the channel leader, the sales leader, the CRO, they're all operating from the same viewpoint, the same understanding of the process, the same understanding of the outcomes, even down at the partner seller level. So that's the first issue that I think we have to solve collectively, which is exactly that. AI is phenomenal, but AI has to have the right recipe, the right ingredients, in order for us to produce the right results. The second part of that on the MP3 OS, platform, like what are we actually trying to do with the AI and trying to do with all this? First and foremost, for our audience, my terrible naming of MP3 OS is basically the M stands for methodology. The first P in there stands for planning. The second P is for production, sales production, and the third P is performance intelligence, performance management. And so the concept is we're building a methodology that takes us from a sales and enablement methodology that overlays this. We want to plan revenue down to the metric at the theater level, at the partner revenue architect level, at the partner level, and at the territory, the sales territory level for our direct sellers. So we've got everybody aligned now. AI goes in and scores that and says, these plans, this particular plan for this PRA or this theater plan has a high probability for success. The math makes sense. The time frames make sense. Everything makes sense on this. Or this is a really low probability plan.
Right.
You're asking, too much of the resources. It's not resource right. AI is going to call that out and say, you need to fix that. Okay. The same thing at the partner, when we build those partner plans, it's going to go in and assess the partner plan to say, this is high probability, medium probability, low probability. So we want to use AI to help us make good decisions based on data, and that's an example.
Yeah. That's a smart way to use it.
Yeah.
You're not, trying to have it take over the wheel and drive the car. You're trying to help it understand how to make things fit better.
No, that's it. That's it. And then, same thing with the production process. So we're building kind of hopefully a next generation, strategy execution or sales play generator that's going to go in and take some data. We're going to put it in, and it's going to spit out what your ICP should be, your messaging for that ICP. Like, it's going to build a complete strategy execution document that is based on sell to, sell through, or sell with. So the messaging is all going to change. It's going to have real sales strategy built into the playbook that we're out executing. So AI is going to help take the methodology, and it's going to make it, crystallize that into something actionable. Yeah. So that we have AI there. And then the final thing that I'll sort of, bring into the equation, as we're collecting data on the execution, AI is analyzing all of that data, and it's finding upsell, cross-sell opportunities. Like, we want to be able to show up as a partner revenue architect and not just say, hey, I want to talk about what you did last quarter and how many deal registrations you have. I want to be able to show up and say, hey, Jeff, we uncovered $3.6 million worth of cross-sell and upsell in these 12 accounts. And based on your engagement rates, conversion rates, and average deal size, we think 4 of those are going to turn. And there's an additional $600,000 worth of services associated with that based on what our AI is analyzing.
Wow.
That's what we want to get.
Very interesting. Yeah, that's great.
And then the last thing is we have a sales coach we're building in. So every one of those records, the PRA is going to sit back, and when we're co-selling, we're going to get data that's coming in from the discovery meeting. We want to drop it in,
right.
Have AI come and build a sales plan, a specific strategy for that account that we can drop over to the partner seller, and we can, our direct seller can use as well in their co-sell. So it's plan, production process with a coverage model, performance intelligence, AI optimization. Like, that's the whole thing in a nutshell.
Wow. So it's MP cubed, really.
MP cubed. Yeah, exactly. We got to probably change it. Like I said, we got to come up with a better name. So
yeah, I think we'll help with that.
Exactly.
So Craig, we're bumping up against the end of the hour or the end of our recording, and Jeff usually loves to do like 3 takeaways from the conversation. So I'll let him do that, and then after that, let's have you just kind of give your Channel Force pitch, how people get in touch with you, and anything else that's pertinent for you. So Jeff, what are your 3 takeaways from today?
Yeah, I was going to let him do the pitch first, but no, it's fine. I was taking a couple things. 3 things. So number one,
of course,
and we've said this a couple times on our show, right? AI is only going to help, right? If it sits inside the channel methodology. It based on our conversation, it helps speed up. It can speed up a bad process. So making sure that when you're using AI, that, like you said, it's not just about the kitchen. It's about making sure you've got the right ingredients. You have a methodology and a process on how you're going to use it. I think the second is, the channel performance metric, and I've heard this, before, it's about active sellers, right? It's about the people that are actively selling within the partners, not just the partner itself, right? So, and people can argue it, but I do like the approach that you use, and I like that philosophy because it narrows it down from just saying it's the partner to who's actually actively selling. And then the third one is, I'm going to let you go do your pitch here, but based on what I know and what we've just talked about, and I think we probably want to do a little bit more expansion on this, is around the Channel Forces platform, right? And what you're trying to do and the planning that has gone into it to help drive the production, the performance, the intelligence for a channel team and a sales team and the sellers, right? So they have better opportunities to upsell and cross-sell. I see a lot of people trying to solve this problem, Craig, because you've got your CRM, you got your PRM, and I can see where people are trying to throw AI at it from this side, and they're trying to throw AI, from this side. But it's just kind of, how do you get that right mix? And what I think is missing is the methodology about what that mix needs to be. And I think that's where the Channel, Forces platform comes in. Based on what I know. So I think this was great, actually. This actually helped give me more clarity, even though we've had previous conversations. So thank you.
Yeah, no issues. So, just kind of finish it on my end again. Craig Booth. Anybody that wants to have a deeper conversation, I've got some ebooks, so I'm happy to send anybody an ebook. I've got some free training that's online as well. The methodology that I built, it's called Structured Performance Partnering. So I have a foundations class. Anybody can go and take that class. If you want to get in touch with me, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. Just connect with me on LinkedIn and send a request. I respond to all of them. Or you can go to my website, www.channel-force.com, and just schedule the meeting straight off the website. But
awesome.
No, super excited about being on the podcast. Really appreciate both you guys. Love the partnership.
Yeah.
And I learn from you guys every time, so it's a good situation.
I'm happy to help. And anyone out there listening, going and requesting a demo of the MP3 OS is worth your time. It just can help you make you a better channel executive, and I think that's what we're all in this for. We want to make sure we improve and we help generate revenue. So worth your time. Thank you, Craig, for being a guest. It was amazing.
Yeah.
If anyone needs to get in touch with Jeff or myself, we have a website, channelsurfers.com. You can email either one of us. I'm John@channelsurfers.com or Jeff@channelsurfers.com. We also have a LinkedIn page, and every Tuesday we post our most recent episode. And we give you a little snippet, and Jeff does an amazing job with a little video snippet of the show, which is great. But other than that, you could find us on pretty much every podcasting service and our YouTube channel. So until the next time, Jeff, thanks again for doing this.
Thank you, John. Appreciate the opportunity to be on here with you and Craig today. Thank you, guys.
Craig, thanks again for being a part of this.
Yep. Thank you.
All right. Cheers, everyone.
Take care. Bye.